Hi, it's Allan Pym from APOS here, and really pleased to be joined today by Rob Lightfoot from SAP. Rob is head of the Unified Data and Analytics Solution Advisory Hub, and really pleased to have you here today, Rob.
Thanks so much for having me, Alan. Yeah, no, it's exciting. It's a time of big change on the data analytics front at SAP. So here to tell you a little bit more about what we're doing, but also give everyone a heads up on what's happening with BEx.
Yeah, so let's jump straight into it. There's been some big changes with coming from Microsoft, and that's had some implications on some important users. But let's focus on the Microsoft side. So tell us a bit about what changes Microsoft has been making.
Yeah, for sure. So some of the, let's say, more outdated versions of Excel are going end of life this October. So October 2025, we'll be looking at 2016 and 2019 versions of Microsoft Office. And that's obviously something which end users might have to worry about, but it also does impact SAP because we have a number of tools which actually rely on those versions of Microsoft Office, which,
Mhm.
as a result of the end of life of these Microsoft Office versions, also, of course, are impacting us. So that's something which I want to, of course, highlight as a part of this chat that we're having.
All right. Well, let's talk specifically about that and the impact on BEx.
Absolutely. So we have Excel dependent objects or let's say interfaces in BEx, and the construct of BEx as a tool set, which are affected, right? So we have BEx Analyzer, BEx Workbooks, and BEx Broadcaster, which are affected, and they are reliant on this Microsoft Office lifecycle. One thing to just clarify for those of you who aren't aware of around BEx, which I'm sure many of you are, this is a suite of technology and tools that we had for many, many years as to how to get data out of BW systems for the end users, right? So it's Business Explorer for those of you who aren't aware, and something which, again, it is not really in SAP's hands, but due to the dependency that we have on Microsoft Office, these tools are, of course, moving end of life as well towards the end of this year. Therefore, something to just really, really be aware of is that those of you who are dependent on those tools, BEx Analyzer, Workbooks, and BEx Broadcaster, to start to think about doing something about it, which is what we're here to tell you a little bit more about today. Just to mention, there are other tools within the BEx family which are not necessarily impacted straight away by this end of life of Microsoft Office version, which we will mention as we are going throughout this presentation. The other thing to also mention and to note is that these, of course, are the interface tools onto BW. But BW as a proposition by itself is something that customers need to be aware of, that is going end of mainstream maintenance in 2027 for the NetWeaver 7.5 version of BW. So we're giving customers the option to potentially move to on-premise BW for HANA, or potentially transition in a lift and shift to our new Business Data Cloud, where we are actually extending the maintenance for the BW systems from 2027 until 2030, which is giving customers the ability to modernize at their own pace and start to make use of the latest and greatest which we have in the cloud. So something that I just wanted to mention there as a part of this.
Yeah, some very important changes there. So the BEx changes are part of a bigger story, but definitely an important focus. So if we talk about the BEx tools specifically, and so which ones are being sunset or support is being stopped here in October?
Yeah, thanks, Alan. So again, it's those ones which are Excel dependent. So those of you who are using these tools, BEx Analyzer, BEx Workbooks, and BEx Broadcaster, need to be aware of this. What's coming up? Essentially, what it means is that the tool may still work, but of course, the version of Microsoft Office is no longer going to be supported, and the version of BEx or that BEx tool that you're using is no longer supported. So if you have issues with it, it's something that we're no longer able to provide support on. So it is those three tools, so BEx Analyzer, Workbooks, and BEx Broadcaster. What is still available to be used is the BEx Query Designer, so something that you can use until 2030, but again, it's not strategic. It's a part of that BW family that I was referring to. And the web-based BEx tools, so whether it be the WAD, the Web Application Designer, or the Web Analyzer. So they're supported until 2030, but again, it's a little bit dependent on you lifting and shifting your BW system to make and take advantage of that extended maintenance. So yeah, something to just be aware of. If you're using those tools, still could be okay to use them for quite some time, but yeah, be aware that they are no longer strategic, and it's something that we're looking to potentially position other tools in place of those.
Lots of organizations around the globe have made the shift away from BEx already, but there's still many who are going to be impacted by this. And I'm sure the question that's on their mind is going to be, well, what do I do? Where do I go? What are my options? So let's talk about what their options are tool wise.
Yeah, thanks, Alan. So I think first and foremost, the natural kind of fit, if you like, for what was originally there with those office-based BEx tools is Analysis for Office. So Analysis for Office is something that you can still continue to use. It's Excel-based. It has full feature parity to what was available in those BEx office-dependent tooling. Um, the primary tool recommendation and the approaches for BEx Analyzer and BEx Workbooks one-to-one with this Analysis for Office. BEx queries continue as the data source for them, so you can continue on with your queries again until 2030, although it's not strategic. And we have a BEx report upgrade wizard as well, which is something to just mention on there. The only thing is that this Analysis Office version, it works and has good feature parity for your BEx interfaces, but for new interfaces, it's worthwhile to consider other tooling, which we're about to, I think, move on to, which is Excel add-in for SAP Analytics Cloud. For example, if you've started to embark on DataSphere, and even now DataSphere is a part of the wider Business Data Cloud proposition, Analytics Cloud Excel add-in would be the place definitely to look. You've got full support for your analytical models, which is providing live access to your underlying data, which is sitting in DataSphere. So really, really powerful, something which is going to provide you great capabilities, but of course, not quite feature parity with what you're originally using with BEx. Last but not least is Analytics Cloud Stories. So this is your complete dashboarding and let's say more advanced analytical based use cases which you want to apply with these stories. You can imagine big screens within your boardroom with really dynamic dashboards and visualizations. This is where Analytics Cloud Stories come in. And again, we don't necessarily have a direct one-to-one with our BEx based interfaces that we were using, but it's something to be well aware of that, again, you can really modernize your analytics by using that approach.
So lots of details in there, and of course we can't cover all of those today, but just sort of general considerations to keep in mind.
Absolutely, yeah. So, and again, I think the title here is perfect. So, choosing the right tool for what you need to be able to do, right? So, depending on your use case, if it's a direct one-to-one, it could well be Analysis for Office is the one that you focus on. But again, for more advanced feature and visualizations, again, cloud-based approach and having something which is really fit for future, it's the Analytics Cloud approach here. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to use one or the other. It could be also a combination of the two, depending on your use cases and scenarios.
Right. The one point that's there is around broadcasting, and we know that BEx Broadcaster, being part of this support change, is something that lots of organizations rely on. So these different tools have different options available for them for the broadcasting, the generation and distribution, scheduling of these reports. This is an area that APOS has been very involved in, and have worked with lots of organizations on specifically that topic. Rob, you and I will have a separate conversation another time about that. But yeah, just know that APOS is in a place to help with that. So this, of course, will lead to lots of questions for organizations thinking about, not only considerations that they need to plan for, but what resources they can turn to. So maybe make a few comments on that, if you would.
Yeah, thanks, Alan. I think this is, again, part of the wider, bigger discussion around what to do with BW. We have tools which we can help with free of charge, for example, BW migration assessments to address what you're currently doing with your BW environment, what potential tools are being used across the enterprise, and really, yeah, what's the mapping between where you are today and where potentially you want to be tomorrow from a more modernization perspective. So that's part of that analysis that can be done. Of course, do your own analysis internally within your enterprises, and really identify, based on those different tools that we outlined, which have the dependency on Office, which are certain things that we need to focus on. Validation of BEx queries, compatibility with the analysis for Office. Again, there's a very close mapping between AFO and the former BEx Office tools, but do validate those queries. And there is a tool-based approach which SAP can support with for mass conversion. So if you've got so many objects and so many different, for example, BEx workbooks that you need to start looking into, there can be a mass conversion that can help there. But generally, it's a case by case. I would say that if you have more limited usage of BEx, it may well work better to use manual transition, because you'll start to think about, well, what's actually needed, right? When we start to transition these reporting requirements, can we potentially do things differently, better, by using the new tool sets? So well worth spending a bit of time and looking into those things. And actually, that leads me on quite nicely to APOS's website here, where there's some great blogs, there's some great information out there on this, which is outlining all of the challenges we've had with this end of life of Microsoft Office and what you can do about it, right? So this is a great place to go. Of course, we've got the SAP community website. You can go on and find out a little bit more. But here in APOS, this is a great place where everything is consolidated together. I don't know, Alan, if you wanted to add anything on that.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's you've covered it. Really, it's a place where we've tried to bring together a whole bunch of resources, including SAP resources, to help cover this topic. So hopefully, it's a one stop to get to the information that is usable. But big questions. Obviously, people are going to want to talk to their SAP representation as well to get to the bottom of their scenario. So. Great, Rob. This has been really helpful and great coverage. I know our listeners will be appreciating the guidance for that you've given today. So, thanks for that. Yeah, we'll draw things to a close there. We'll look forward to another conversation specifically on the broadcasting topic. But for today, Rob, thanks. Great for your time.